All right, so let's get started with introductions. Still got a lot of people popping in. But first and foremost, my name is Colleen DeLang. I'm with my REALTORS. Also been a licensed realtor for, 22 years now. Makes me feel very old when I say it that way. And normally I am joined by Brian Alfred, who is our Chief Technology Officer, but unfortunately he had a death in the family, so he's not able to join us today. But I'm going to take you through basically what this conversion is. I know there's a lot of people talking about, why are we making this change? Why are we going from Paragon to Paragon? We're going to talk about why all of that is happening and how you're going to have more data, more tools, and all of the new benefits that you're going to have. A lot of the information you already know, so you're familiar with Paragon. It's been your home MLS, but we're going to show you some things that we added to make Paragon even easier. We're also going to show you how you can access all of that data. So basically, you're going to log in and have a lot more properties to see, a lot more properties to sell, and hopefully that means a lot more commissions for you down the road too. So with that, I would like to introduce not only one of my very best friends in the world, but she has been in real estate a tremendous amount of time as well. She's a phenomenal manager, but she's going to be helping out today, answering all of your great questions. I want to introduce you to Dawn Waldrop pertaining. Dawn, you want to say hi to everybody?
Good morning, everybody.
Dawn, tell us a little bit about you.
This is my almost 19th year in real estate. I still want to be a realtor when I grow up. 4 years ago, I took a management position with the Shelby Township Office of Real Estate One, and I still love that. And I've been doing training and this kind of fun stuff with my RealTors for the last 7. So I'm excited to be here. I'm probably not as good at answering the questions as Brian and Colleen, but I'll fill in the gaps where I can.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dawn, just let me know whenever you got a question and we'll go ahead and address it. And that way, I'm sure if you have a question, someone else does. So let me explain kind of how GoToWebinar works if you're not familiar. At any time today, you can ask a question. You're going to open up that GoToWebinar panel, which by now is probably minimized over to the right-hand side of your screen. Usually at the top, you'll see kind of an orange-red arrow. If you click on that arrow, it's going to go ahead and fly out for you, and you're going to see some important kind of boxes there. One of the boxes is the questions box. This is where we're going to ask you to put in any questions that you have along the way today. And so, if you're thinking of a question, don't feel like you got to hold it to the end. As an agent myself, I get to the end, I can't remember what question I was going to ask. So feel free, and that's why Dawn is helping us out too. She's going to be asking those questions and answering those questions for you. We're going to go over a lot of information today. So let me first tell you that we're recording this whole class. So if you miss something, or if I'm going at a pretty good speed and you're like, what did that lady with the fuzzy hair say? You can always go back and watch this. It's recorded. You can see it 24 hours a day on YouTube at the My RealTors channel. I made you your own playlist. So it actually says the Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors. I'm going to show you how to get there before we're done today. So even if you miss anything today, you can go back and you can rewatch it. Not only is there a questions box that you can add in your questions, but there is also handouts. So I'm going to give you some really important dates today. All of those are located in the handout section, along with your new Paragon data sheets. So a lot of good stuff in the handout section. If you click on that handout section, a lot of people say, I can't open it. You do have to actually save it to your computer. They are PDFs, but you are going to want to save them, again, just because it's going to give you those important dates that you're going to need to be familiar with. Now, we're going to go through all those today too, so don't worry. But basically, all the dates and everything in the presentation has been attached in a PDF handout that you can find right under the handout section. And feel free, like I said, to jump in with any questions. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on going over why you're making this change. So change is hard, I will say, as an agent, especially in our industry. We really don't like change. And anytime you're making a change, you always feel like, oh, this is going to be painful. But I promise you, we've taken a lot of steps to make sure that this goes as smooth as possible. What's happening right now is you're kind of in this parallel time. So I'm going to kind of explain what that means. It means that basically both versions of Paragon are running. So your new version, so you can go in, check it out, use the new tools and exciting things in the new version. But then there is the previous, the UPAR version, we're going to call it, what you've always used. So basically our agenda is we're going to talk about why you're making this conversion. We're going to talk about who my RealTors is and why UPAR has chosen to vendor with us or get services through us. We're also going to talk about what to expect, what changes you may see, what you need to know about those changes, and what the most important thing is, what dates do you need to know? Because there are some crucial dates that are coming up, and you're going to want to be aware of what you need to do, what your homework is basically, in order to make sure that this goes absolutely as smooth as possible for you. And then we're going to talk about all the education and training. Both Dawn and I do a lot of training. Dawn obviously trains for the MLS, and she also does a tremendous amount of training for her office and her company, Real Estate One. So she can tell you better than anyone. We can give you 100 new tools, but if there's no training on it, it really doesn't mean a whole lot to most agents. They want to know, why should I use this? What is it going to do for me? How is it going to help me? So everything that we're going to cover today, we're going to have classes on every single thing. So we're going to go at a really high clip today. We're going to give you an overview, but there are classes on everything from Paragon Basics to Paragon Advanced to Cloud CMA to your new Home Snap and all the new features it's going to have, the MLS integrations, lead generation. There is a class that we will be setting up after the conversion happens for everything that we're showing you today. So don't worry if you didn't pick it up because we only touched on a few pieces of it. There will be a class coming. As a matter of fact, we have a listing entry class that will start after April 4th when that portion of Paragon is turned on in your new MLS. We have things like, again, Home Snap classes, your mobile MLS class, lead generation, and a lot of specialty classes. And those will start, as I mentioned, after the cutover. We're also going to have the Collab Center classes, which are part of Paragon, but you can actually set up your saved search, assign it to your buyer, and it will automatically send your buyer these great emails anytime a new property is available with that criteria. So a lot of good stuff. We're kind of just going to do the basics right now because we don't want to give you too much at once. But the MLS conversion itself. So the reason that UPAR decided to choose my RealTors as a vendor is one, we are 100 years old, and we are a broker owned, but we have been working on setting up data sharing for over 10 years now. And the reason that's so important is I was getting very frustrated when I was talking to a buyer and they were finding more properties than I could see in the MLS. So I said, if I'm licensed in the entire state, why can I only see right here, right? I want to be able to see comps for everywhere. I want to see listings for everywhere. I want to show listings from, coast to coast. And that's why UPAR decided to go with my RealTors. Is we started working on data sharing over 10 years ago, actually I think 12 years ago now, and we decided we wanted to have you be able to log in to your home MLS, the one you know, and find all the information you really need to see all the comps in your area. Because really, truly, if grandma is listing over here, you want to be able to see all the comps. If grandma's listing down here, you still want to see all of the comps because we're working larger areas now. You also want to be able to show properties. There's a lot of people looking for vacation homes, a lot of people moving north. You want to be able to show properties anywhere. And so when we set out to do data sharing, and I'm just going to tell my own story, I had to belong to 3 MLSs. I had to pay 3 sets of MLS fees. And I had to put the exact same 200 fields into 3 different systems. It was absolutely ridiculous. Not to mention I would get fined at one MLS because I'd mark it closed over here and I forget to mark it closed over here. Nothing talked to each other. And I thought, wasn't that the most frustrating thing? I'm paying all this money and having to do all this extra work. And so that's when we said there has to be a better way. And now let's face it, a lot of our buyers are using IDX sites like Realtor.com and Zillow, and they were finding the information information faster than we were. So thankfully now with data sharing, we are basically 3 MLSs away from having an entire statewide database, meaning that you can literally see properties coast to coast and the information you need to do your job. So the reason that my RealTors has stayed with Paragon is that we could do more integration in Paragon. We could put more easy buttons. We could allow you to go into more systems. And because we offer so many systems, we can provide those onto your board so that they can take advantage of what we've already spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on building. Do be aware that all of the IDX and syndication vendors have already been notified. We've already moved those over for you. So you're going to see no disruption on anywhere that brokers may syndicate to. So keep in mind, you should see no disruption on the IDX or syndication side. We've already taken care of that with your board. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next section. Again, if you have any questions, just throw them in that questions box and we'll go ahead and get them answered. We're kind of going to go through some of what you need to know, and then we're going to do some live demos so you can actually see a lot of the things that I'm talking about today. All right, so again, we have been now vendoring other MLSs or providing MLS services for over 12 years. We basically offer board level autonomy and control. What that means is UPAR is still in control of their rules and their regulations and what they want in the system. We do not change that. We don't get involved in that. The rules and the information are still all done right through UPAR. We just basically hand UPAR the services with the cool tools that we've already built in. You're still going to be your own MLS. You're going to put in your own branding. You're going to have your own fields. You're going to be able to still communicate with your own board. And again, the board will still continue to make all of the rules. If your board finds, they do all of that. We just basically provide them the tools. And that's why you'll hear more about my RealTors. We're just handing over the tools basically to UPAR so that they can pass those great integrations that they would have had to spend tens of thousands of dollars to do. We've already done that. So it's saving a lot of money for UPAR because it's already done. All right, we do offer support 7 days a week. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm going to give you all the support information. But the cool thing about our support is we don't just support Paragon. If you have a question about how cloud works with Paragon, you don't want to have to call cloud and then call Paragon. So we support all the products that you get through us. And a lot of times it'll be great people like Dawn or myself who are also answering support questions and teaching those classes. So we're familiar with what agents are talking about. When they call and they say, I'm trying to do this, it's very helpful to have agents who are assisting and saying, oh yeah, I know exactly how you would do that here because we use the tools ourselves. So keep in mind, if you do have questions, you get in there, something doesn't seem right or isn't working right with your computer, you have support from my RealTors 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And you can do chat. We do sometimes shadow if you're having difficulty on your computer. We may shadow you to walk you through that. But we've got an outstanding tech support. They are in-house, by the way. You're not going to be waiting on hold for an hour and then sent, over to another country where you're waiting for someone else to answer. Everything is done in-house to make it nice and convenient. All right, products and integration that we're going to be offering. So we are obviously going to be providing Paragon a little bit more souped up. You're going to have a few more tools within your Paragon. You're going to have showing time. Now, let me be very clear. You're going to have showing time just like you do. You're going to have the showing time app. You're also going to have some new tools in showing time. But one thing to keep in mind is right now, as I mentioned, you're basically running parallel. So showing time is not turned on in your new MLS yet because we want you to continue booking your showings and entering your listings into the UPAR version of Paragon, the one you've always been using. The reason is we don't want it to be double entered. Right? We don't want you entering the listing over here, and then we're trying to match them up, and that can be a mess. So what we do is we have you continue to use showing time and Paragon in your home MLS that you've always done. So the showing time scheduling and the entering of listings, you're going to do through the MLS that you've always logged into. I'm going to give you some dates of when all those things are now going to be available in your new MLS, so that everything's turned on at once and we don't have all those duplicate properties. That was really important. Cloud CMA, I am a huge fan of Cloud CMA. We're going to be teaching that. We're going to show you the quick integration, or the easy button, if you will, to pull properties in from almost anywhere in the state to get the accurate comps. They've also released a new live version. If you haven't seen that, it's amazing. It does the calculations for you. It actually has an interactive, I've never seen this. I've used 7 CMA programs, but it actually has an interactive map that you can be sitting at a seller's kitchen table and they can say, well, what about Joe? He closed last Friday. And you're thinking, well, I haven't seen Joe's house, but they think you've seen every house, right? So I can pull up the interactive map, click on Joe's house, and I can say, oh, I didn't add Joe to your CMA because he happens to be a ranch and you're a 2-story, or whatever it happens to be. But that's kind of a good example I like to give. Cloud CMA Live is amazing, so I can't wait to teach that class. Again, we'll have all of those classes starting toward the end of April, and I think you'll really want to check that out. HomeSnap, yes.
We have a question, and I just want you to cover it again so that they understand. The question is, so are you saying we'll have access to every MLS listing in the state? For example, Eastern UP uses Flex. Will we see those when we log into our new MLS?
Great question. So we do have integration with some MLSs with Flex, like for instance, Mishrick. You will have that data. That is also using Flex. We have kind of a, and the reason that UPAR decided to go with us is we have a front end that works with multiple MLS platforms. Now, let me explain that we did recently reach out, and I have a slide coming up on this too. We did recently reach out to the Eastern UP, and we actually offered them a free data sharing plan to just share with you. They are one of the 3 at this time who've not decided to share with us currently. Now we did, again, we actually reached out to them. We said, hey, we're bringing on UPAR. We're really excited about this. You guys are very close in proximity, and we would love to provide a free data sharing solution. So just the 2 of you could see each other's information, and unfortunately they said that they were not interested in that. So there are basically three MLSs. Now, the reason I say basically 3 is there is one MLS in Michigan that you do not have to be a Realtor member. And I was a little shocked. There are 34 MLSs in the state of Michigan. I had no idea there were so many, right? 34 MLSs. We are 3 away from having that statewide database, but there is one MLS that does not require you to be a Realtor. And our data sharing agreements are that Realtors get that confidential information. So there is one MLS we won't be bringing on, but we did, as a matter of fact, it was just 2 months ago, we gave a presentation to the Eastern UP and we asked them if we set up this free data sharing, would you be willing to just share between the 2 of you and it wouldn't cost you anything? And unfortunately, they said they were not interested at this time. So hopefully that will change down the way, because that really would, I know, make it much more convenient up there. But right now, we would not be able to see the Eastern UP. And I will show you a data sharing map coming up here shortly, so you can kind of see all the areas. But basically, it's the Eastern UP, Water Wonderland, and Emmett ACK. Those would be the 3 MLSs that you would not see in the data share. And I'm hoping one day we can bring those last 3 in and really have a system that allows agents to really sell anywhere in the state of Michigan. Did that answer it, or were there more questions on that?
Nope,
Dawn?
that's good.
All right, and keep those questions coming. We love it. All right, so we also do have we do have the ZipForm MLS connector. So we do not offer ZipForm. We actually offer Transaction Desk and AuthentiSign to our members. Same company now. They're under the Lone Wolf umbrella. But we will be offering you the MLS data sheets in ZipForm, the MLS updates through ZipForm, and the MLS connector piece. And I know Dawn uses ZipForm as well. We'll be offering those additional tools just to make it very seamless within Paragon, and I'll be showing you that too. BSNA and RPR. This is one I think that you're really, really going to like. At least I really love it. This is where you can get those tax records. They are embedded into Paragon right on the listing. I'm going to show you how the easy buttons are going to take you to those services. You will have access to BSNA and RPR for that deep linking into programs, so you don't have to do a lot of double entry. And keep in mind that the tax autofill will actually auto-populate your listing for anywhere in the state. We have tax autofill, which means you can put an address in and it's going to pull all the tax records in for your new listing. It's going to pull things like the lengthy legal description, the tax records, the property, the school district. So we're going to show you how all 83 counties in Michigan, you can literally click on the county, put the address in, and start pulling that right into your data sheet to fill out your new listing, okay? Or directly into Paragon if you prefer. You're gonna see a lot of deep integration that we've built. One is going to be with the single property website. I am a huge fan of this. This is a brand new tool that you are gonna get through UPAR that we provide called the single property website, meaning when you add in a listing right into Paragon, it creates this beautiful, very pleasant on the eyes. It is mobile friendly, but it creates a property website for just that specific property. And then there's a contact page so they can reach out to you with questions. This is automatically done when you enter a listing into Paragon, so there's no extra work for you. But the benefit is when you share it out onto social media, it shares beautifully. And what I love most about it, I'll be totally honest, is that when you share from places like Zillow or Realtor.com or other places where agents could have bought that zip code, you're basically working so hard to share your listing and you're giving it away to someone else who may have bought that particular zip code. The nice thing is when you share through the single property website, at the bottom of the website, and I'm going to be showing you this, at the bottom of the website, it has your other listings and your other pendings and sold. So if they're not interested in that specific listing, they're going to see your other listings at the bottom in case one of those is appealing to them. So it's only promoting you. There's no other advertising, no other companies, and no other agents, which I really like. But you're going to see these. Yes.
I have a couple of other questions.
Okay.
One we may cover later, but I'll tell you what it is. Okay. And it is the one we've been asking ourselves for years. Okay. Why would a certain MLS choose not to share? a pretty loaded question, and we as realtors, we wish we knew. There are certainly reasons, but we may cover that one. So I wanted to tell you about that one. But the next question is, will this lead people to have a misrepresentation on property taxes, homestead versus non-homestead?
No, and actually that came up in our last class. No, you're going to be able to go in. Now, of course, if you're referring to the auto population, you can change that. You can choose not to import from that. You can also choose which of the fields you want to import from. When it comes to the tax information, we're actually going to have all of the tax information that was previously required. And I'm going to actually open that up today because I really thought that was a really good question we had in our last class. And they were saying, well, is it going to require the total tax year? And does it require the summer and winter? And does it require, the year for those? And the answer is yes. It's going to have all of the tax information fields that you had previously and then some. And so we're going to actually open that up so you can actually see it. I want to make sure I'm addressing that question correctly. But yes, you're going to still be able to choose what's imported. Of course, if you think, there are times I look at the tax records and I go, I want to check on it. If you don't want to import them, you can simply deselect that particular field when importing the data in. And that's, of course, your choice. I think that most of the time, sometimes you'll see zeros there, and then you got to do a little homework and try to figure that out. But yes, you have the option to change that. You will be able to say, yes, it's homesteaded, or no, it's not homesteaded. You will be able to include the tax year, the summer, the winter. There's multiple fields for that. So you're going to have all the tax information you used to put in, plus more. So we'll take a look at that. And remind me, Dawn, if I forget to open up that tax field when we're looking at the listing so they can actually see it. I think it made everyone feel a whole lot better when they saw it on our previous class, because they were kind of picturing in their head, how would that work? Any more questions before I jump into the next part?
Nope, we're good. Other than why wouldn't they choose to share? But that may come up later.
We'll talk a little bit more about that. I think sometimes it just comes down to, and there's certainly, every board has their reasons. Some boards are afraid that they may lose members. Some boards are afraid basically that they want to control their data because they always have. And there are some areas that have literally said, we've just done it this way forever and we just don't want to change. But unfortunately, when we started this many, many years ago, we didn't have things like IDX and Zillow and Realtor.com and all these other IDX sites that we were basically competing against, right? I mean, we didn't have these issues. And so in some areas, it's the fact that it's always been done that way and they just don't want to change. But I think we're seeing, and the reason that this data sharing has worked so successfully for 12 years, by the way, we've been doing this 12 years. We have never lost one data sharing partner. Matter of fact, we started off sometimes just baby step data sharing, like maybe, getting the information out. We'll try it for 1 year, and they've loved it, and they've signed long-term contracts with us. So it works, but I think some people get very nervous because they've done it one way forever, and they're very afraid if they change that way, they're going to lose their data, or they're going to. And the fact is we never provide data sharing without both data sharing partners agreeing in writing on a contract that we can share their data with this person or that person. It never goes beyond that. But it makes people nervous when you have change, and especially when you're changing, small areas. They think, well, is this going to mess up how we've done business all along? But unfortunately, what we've seen is that by not changing, a lot of the members leave anyway, and they go to boards where they do get all of the information. So it's a changing time. And so I think hopefully I covered a little bit of that. We are going to go a little bit more into that as we go forward. I do want to point out,
Colleen, there was a follow-up comment to that about then the comment is, then there is an uncapping issue. And I'm going to take a wild guess, because I haven't seen the UPAR data like you have, that UPAR must enter into their system what the taxes will be, and that's why they don't want to import the current taxes. Does that sound accurate?
Well, according to who I talked to in the last class, and we'll look at that field so that you can actually see it, but the people in the last class said yes, they had everything they needed that they had in their current system, plus even more. So I think maybe we should look at that before I answer that question, because I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. But yes, you should still have all of the things that were required before. We're not changing that, but you should have additional fields that you can enter too. So let's take a look.
I think she's talking about the autofill, Colleen. If it autofills the current taxes like we do down here, it sounds like from the question, and Tammy, please feel free to drop in there if I'm understanding you correctly, that they are not doing that. They're inputting what the taxes, the estimated taxes, what they will be for the new buyer. By the way, super smart guys, because the rest of the state doesn't do that. But that's what it sounds like. And if they use the pre-filled tax data, it will give the wrong picture to the buyer from what they're accustomed to. So they could certainly, like you said, opt out of those fields or uncheck those fields and not use that information.
Sure. And I'm going to show you that tax import so that you can see how you can just deselect the taxes if you want. You don't have to use the taxes that are there. So if it says, Dawn is mentioning, if you guys are actually, because yeah, you would be I think one of the first ones in the state. If you are doing that, is very smart. If you are doing that, and you want to remember, you can put your own in too. You can just deselect, I don't want to add the taxes, but it will still add the legal description, the address, the city, all the other information, and then you can put the taxes in yourself. So, and I'm going to show you that. I think if I show it, it'll make more sense. But before I do that, I do want to point out one more icon here. There's the single property website, which I'm going to show you in a second. There is the HomeSnap report, which is HomeSnap is your mobile MLS. And I know some people were a little bit familiar with HomeSnap. You're going to get a lot more functionality in HomeSnap now because we actually provide exclusively the HomeSnap Pro Plus, or I'm sorry, the HomeSnap Pro Premium. And what that means is you're going to be able to edit your listings from your phone. We could be on this class right now and you could have just bottom lined an offer and you don't want any more showings. I can click open my listing on my phone through HomeSnap. I can hit edit. I can change it to pending. I can, if it's pending and unfortunately had a deal die, knock on wood, you can go ahead and simply put it back to an active status. You can change the price. You can actually edit your listing from HomeSnap now. One of the other things you're going to have that you didn't have before is that if you're showing a property, and I was just showing properties over by me in St. Clair Shores last weekend, and we were walking in the basement and the buyer said, you know, Colleen, there's a little evidence of water. Was this from the flooding they had, or is this like a sub pump backup? Well, now when you go into HomeSnap on your phone, you can actually see the property disclosures, the seller's disclosure, the lead-based paint disclosure. Not only can I see them, but I can actually share them over to the buyer standing next to me, and they can see them on their phone. So we're going to look at those. So you get a whole lot more functionality within HomeSnap than you did previously. This is kind of what the single property website looks like, by the way. So this is kind of the top half of it. It includes your virtual tours, your map. This is done automatically. People can actually request a showing time with you, which basically just emails you when they'd like to see this property. Can be shared quickly over here, as you can see, out onto social media. We're going to take a look at a live one so that you can actually see it. They can contact the agent. But again, my favorite feature is at the bottom. It is all of the other agents, active, pendings, and closed. So they can see, oh, this agent's doing quite a bit of business, and share it out onto social media. It just makes a great, I really like the look of it. It's very simple and very easy for the public to understand. HomeSnap Pro Premium, as I mentioned, you can edit your listings. You can change things like your public remarks, agent remarks, status. Again, right in the confidential section, which is available for agents only, you'll see this pro here. This is where I can go in and I can get my seller's disclosure, my lead-based paint disclosure. And what I love, and a lot of people are doing this in our area, I'm not so sure about your area, but a lot of people are now putting in, and I love when they do this, if it is a condo, they're putting in the rules and regulations of the condo or the bylaws. So I have those right away for so if I'm showing a condo and they say, well, we got 2 dogs, can you have 2 dogs here? I don't have to call the agent and wait for the agent to find the information. It's right there, and I can share it directly over to the buyer who's interested in that condo. Things like surveys, or if you've got a plat map, those are great things to add in. I know up by you guys have a lot of ski resorts, and a lot of listings are marked trail side. These would be, you know, if you've got a copy of what, you know, the trails are, or you've got, you know, a golf course area and you want to put that in there, you know, great information that they would love to have, that they now can see when they're showing that property, and that agent's going to be able to show it better if they have all of the details. So deep linking that we talk about now, I have to apologize. Usually when Brian's doing this with me, I give him a lot of grief right here. And it's because what you're seeing, I know it looks like a garbage can, and I apologize. It's supposed to be a government pillar. But when Brian tried to shrink it down for you guys and put it on the button, it turned that government pillar into what I think looks like a big trash can. It's not how you delete a listing, so don't worry. But what it does do is it takes you into BS&A. Now, BSNA for you guys, it does not, let me clarify, it does not waive the fee for BSNA. What it does do is it takes you into BSNA, into that municipality. But if it does ask you for $2 to access that record, or in our area, it went to $4, if it does ask you for a fee, it's still going to require you to pay that. But what it does do is it deep links you right to that municipality, and then all you have to do is put in, your method of payment, if it does, and then it would then open up, and you can obviously use it. And I put those right in my Cloud CMA. I have that like the first page of Cloud CMA. And I'm going to show you that today too. All right, so the UP, why you're going through all of this. So we found that you also go deeply into Wisconsin. So Brian was tasked with, originally when we looked at it, we thought, they've got some Wisconsin listings, but we didn't realize how many. So Brian actually was tasked with adding all of the Wisconsin counties too. So you will see, as we go through this, that if you pull up a property, it may have a WI after it, which would identify that it's a Wisconsin property. So you're going to have more data, but so now you're getting kind of a picture of the UP. Down here, this is our regional. So this is Bay County, which you're going to be getting, Clare Gladwin, East Central, which is kind of that Flint area or Genesee County area, Greater Shiawassee, Lenawee, of course, my REALTORS, Saginaw, and the southeastern border. So now we've added in our regional data sharing, so you can see how much more you're now going to get in your home MLS. So as I mentioned, Brian was tasked with the counties. So getting those 72 Wisconsin counties in, the 94 areas, including municipalities, mail cities, school districts. And surprisingly, we didn't realize how many you had going forward. In 1 year, you had 426 listings that were active, pending, or closed, equaling over $53 million in sales volume that was on the Wisconsin side. So we had a little bit of extra work at the end, which is why we were a little bit delayed in getting those all mapped in. But as you can see, right down here, because there were, oddly enough, there were a couple counties that were also in Wisconsin. So if you pull up a particular county and you see a dash WI, you know that that is a Wisconsin property. So we tried to identify it very easy. So there are some additional fields that we did need to add for you that we don't have, which some of them I wish we did, quite honestly. So you guys are even ahead of your time on that. But things like, some things were obviously unique to you: ski resort, legal water access, business type. And again, all of these this is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and see all of these. But you did have some additional fields that we actually added into the MLS system just to make sure you could keep all of those. But you are going to also have some more fields that are common that we use that we thought would be helpful too. So why does it matter what fields you have? Why can't you just have what we call unicorn fields? Just, we would like this field, just add it. And the reason that becomes a little bit more challenging, and we have to be a little bit more restrictive on the fields, is because there's something called the REZO standards. And REZO is the Real Estate Standards Organization, I'm sorry. And what it tries to do is it's trying to nationally, so if an agent sells over here and another agent selling in Florida, Michigan, California, it's trying to come up with a level playing field of what these should be called, because obviously every area is very unique. And so sometimes an area like for instance, you guys, ski resort is really important to you guys. So that is a unique field. But some fields should always be universal. So no matter where you're selling, you should be able to understand what that field means and what should go in there. So basically, REZO is the Real Estate Standards Organization trying to bring those more together. So when we have data sharing, the right information goes into the right field, which is so crucial in making data sharing work, around our state and the other states as well. So it is in compliance with the National Association of Realtor mandates, and it will aid in the coming national core standards for MLSs. So there's more and more standards that are being imposed on the MLSs to be more consistent. And so we have to also follow those. Required fields. Okay, so there are some new fields that you're going to see. Right now, when you go in, these new fields are going to be in your new MLS. And when you go into your let's call it the My RealTors Paragon for a moment versus the UPAR Paragon. When you log in, you're going to see some new fields. If you go to edit a listing, it might ask you for some additional information that you didn't have to fill in before. And I apologize, but what we want to do is we want to give the most information to the agents across the state so that they can see these properties in a way that they're accustomed to as well. So but you would only see this if you went in and tried to edit or touch the listing. It would ask you for things that you maybe didn't see before. So keep in mind, if you haven't seen those before, you might get a little pop-up, just like Paragon. I know you're familiar with that. If you've missed something, there's a little pop-up that will say, hey, you missed this item. So you may see that when you're getting ready to touch or edit a listing, and it'll look just like this. So we've got our pop-up. It says, oh, it didn't ask me for occupancy before. Now it's asking me for that field or a particular field. All right, so notable points of differences. This is what you need to be aware of going forward. Rentals are available in all the classes. So there's not just a rental status, if you will. In our single family home, there can be rentals. In a multi-family home, there can be rentals. So the rentals are included in those classes. You don't have to do a separate search. Statuses. Pending with contingency is basically, or a keep showing is contingency applies. Things like where it used to be called sold, it's now called closed. So they basically are kind of meaning the same thing, but they may be labeled slightly different. Pending backup encouraged is now accepting backup offers. You know, the terms to meet REZO might be slightly different, but you'll find them in the same spot and it will make sense when you're reading it. It's not like, you know, it's going to be tricky. Pending with kick out or keep showing, contingency applies. Okay, so basically they're not really changing. The statuses themselves aren't changing, but you will see a new status popping up even if your board doesn't use the coming soon status. Remember that other boards that you're now data sharing will. So you do want to be familiar with what coming soon means. Coming soon basically is a property that can be marketed for up to 7 days. And then on day 7 at midnight, it becomes active. Now they don't have to do the full 7 days. Where this kind of came from is we had a lot of agents who were doing pocket listings. And so NAR put in with what they call policy 8 that says, hey, you can't just pocket these listings. That's not in the best interest of the seller. So if you're putting a sign in front, you have to allow other agents to be able to show those properties too. And so what they said is if you advertise a listing, you have 24 hours to get it into the MLS. But if the homeowner isn't really ready to have showings yet, you can have up to 7 days to advertise that home or have that sign in the yard. And then on day 8, obviously it needs to be available for showings. It cannot be shown by the listing agent or anyone else in that time. Coming soon means just that. It is not available for showings currently, but after that 7-day period, now it's available for showings. Even if your board doesn't use it, I just want to make you aware of what that status is because you will see it through the data sharing. Okay, and then lastly, if you are more familiar, basically when you start data sharing, everything gets the original MLS number that you put it into UPAR with, but now we add some other information into the MLS number, like prefixes, things like that we use to help us data share properly. So if you want to search by the UPAR MLS number, you still can do that. And I'm going to show you that today when we start looking in Paragon. Post conversion, so there are some things we are still working on, like getting all your cloud accounts moved over so that everything you had in your previous cloud account is going to be showing. A lot of these things we really don't want to do or can't do until April 4th. And what I mean is right now, remember, you're going to run parallel. So you have both. You can go into both. The new one, your new Paragon, is not going to have the listing entry turned on yet, because remember, we don't want to have two listings and now we're trying to fight it out, which is the right listing or which information is correct if the agent put something in differently. So right now, all showing time and listing entries done through your home MLS. However, on April 4th, everything in the old MLS is going to be what we call flattened. It's basically going to be in a read-only version. So you can still go back to your old MLS and look something up, but you won't be able to go in and do edits. You won't be able to add listings in. It's kind of like a flattened version. It's just there for your review. We're not turning it off. It's going to stay on for quite a while so that you can still go back and see information in your old MLS. However, on April 4th, after the parallel comes to an end, that means that on April 4th, you'll start entering all your listings in the new system. You'll start using showing time through the new system. That way, all the records are appropriate and we're not doing any duplication that we have to figure out in the end. Cloud CMA, again, we are taking your whole cloud CMA accounts, we are lifting them up and literally moving them over. So that will be done. All of your CMAs will be there. The Home Snap Pro Premium will be turned on after April 4th. We'll have everything set up and running smoothly. Then we'll flip the switch for that, as well as the deep linking and the single property website. So what we want to do is just make sure we get through this conversion period with your help. On April 4th, we'll start adding in the additional pieces. So they won't all be turned on right away. So I just want to clarify that first. All right, important dates that you really need to know. And this is, again, attached in your handouts. This is where you want to take the notes. This is the important part. So on March 4th, we started the parallel, the two MLSs running side by side. All of your contacts, okay, and this is really important, all the contacts you had in the old system have been migrated to the new system. So if you had, 300 Barry buyers over here, we've copied those into the new system for you. So you do not have to re-enter all of your contacts. So that's the good news. On April 1st, this is the really important date to know. On April 1st, you are going to go into that read-only state. And that means that there will be no listing entry or editing available over that weekend. That's when the final conversion is going to happen. And we'll be testing everything, making sure all of the fields are working. So if you have a listing, this is the important thing, you have a listing coming up, you want to get it in before April 1st, or you're going to have to wait to enter that listing until that final cutover on the 4th. So you want to make sure that you've got, if you're planning, make sure you're planning those right dates. Finally, on April 4th, that cutover will happen, and that means that you can go in and the old Paragon will now be flat. You'll be read-only. However, all the listing entry, showing time, all the functionality is now going to be over here in the new Paragon. So hopefully I made that clear. Dawn, do you think I made that clear enough?
Yes, ma'am. And I answered a question that came up that said, do we have to re-enter our listings? And I answered that no, those will all be transferred.
I know that would make me very nervous as well, but yes, everything's going to be transferred over as far as contacts, your listing information, but what you need to do. So this is that kind of leads right into this. So what do I need to know? What do I need to do to make this work just smoothly? So yes, we are importing all of your contacts, but the one thing we can't import is saved searches. So if you've got some saved searches that you've set up, now is a good time to go in and decide, do you want to keep those saved searches? You can print them off, what the criteria is, but you will need to, because the area identifiers will be different, and obviously you have much more that you can see, those saved searches will need to be recreated in your new Paragon. Your contacts will be there so you can marry them easily, but you do need to set up those saved searches. And then what we're asking, the homework we're really asking you for is to go in, take a look at your information, your listing specifically, and make sure everything looks appropriate. If it's missing a photo, or maybe you're looking at the field and there's a field that's blank that you know you entered into the old MLS, this is that great time that we're asking for your help to report anything you see. So when we go over in a cutover, all of that is done so that there's no interruption. And I'm going to show you how to do that. There's a corrections button that is actually in on every single listing. All you have to do is hit correction. It already knows what the listing is. You just have to tell us what's wrong with it. So just a simple missing this field, or can't see the photo, or something like that. Just let us know what the issue is, and then we'll take it from there, and we'll make sure that we investigate why that particular item didn't come over. So as I mentioned, your job is going to be to recreate your saved searches or export your saved searches. The easiest way to do that is to go into Paragon. Under your search, you'll find saved property searches. You're going to click that and it will show you. What I've done is I usually just print mine out and then I will go in and add them in. This will be the criteria for that saved search, and that's obviously going to show you what you already set up. But this is also a good time for cleanup. So remember, if you've got hundreds of saved searches, this might be a good time to maybe only add in the exact ones that you have a client for or that you're working with someone for. All right, so here's where we need your help. Again, you'll find the corrections button that will let us know if we're missing anything. And what we did is we actually created your report that most of UPAR used, which is the UPAR all fields data. So we actually copied that report and we made it available in your reports so that you can still use the same report you're familiar with. However, you're going to find a lot of new reports, and I do encourage you to check some of them out because we've added some cool stuff. You have a lot more reports to choose from, and we've done some cool things with some of our client reports, and so you'll have more, but the report that you're familiar with is already there too. Okay, and again, it's called the UPAR all fields data. All right, reporting corrections. The most important corrections that we're looking for are things like, is the area or municipality correct? Is the mail city or postal city correct? School district, geolocation. These are all things because obviously we're not up exactly where you are. We want to make sure all of these items are flowing properly. And, Brian has been working extensively late into the night actually mapping all of these fields for you. But we do want to make sure that if you find something that doesn't look correct, you report it before we get into that cutover. All right, so now you're probably thinking, well, how do I get in there? The login is UP and then your UPAR Paragon login. So it's UP and then your Paragon, your UPAR Paragon login that you had before, and then your password is going to be the same as you used previously. So the only thing you're adding, I just want to make sure everybody's clear. The only thing that you're adding is the UP, so right here. And then your Paragon login that you used previously, and then your Paragon password remains the same. And it's funny because we tried to make that so easy, but I can't tell you how many calls we get, and people are like, I don't remember what it was because it's auto-saved, which I did myself. So, all right. So, any more questions though?
Nope, we're good.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to this next slide. Give me 1 second. All right, so in a lot of this we're going to do live, so you're going to be able to see it, but going into support, this is a number that you're going to want to take down or put somewhere handy because there are going to be questions as you're making this transition, and it's 248-247-1040. Again, it's 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And it's 248-247-1040. And if you wanted to reach out via email, you can always contact us at support@myrealtors.com. So if you're more comfortable sending an email with all the information, that's great. I usually like to talk to a real life, and our average hold time is less than 2 minutes, so it's not like you're gonna have to wait a long time. But the nice thing is we can support not only Paragon, but the other products as well. Upcoming classes and training, as I mentioned. So once we go through this conversion process, obviously the hard part, then we're going to have Paragon Basics, Paragon Advanced. We're going to show you how to do CMAs within Paragon and using Cloud and Cloud's new live version. We're also going to have the Collaboration Center class, which is basically going to allow you to set up a client, marry their saved search, and make sure that client gets those auto notifications. Some of the cool things that a lot of people don't realize about the Collab Center is that there are also some additional pieces. For instance, I'm going to use Dawn for this example because I had a client, actually they were getting ready to get married, and they were very specific. They wanted to live in St. Clair Shores. And, you know, we had been looking and looking, we couldn't find anything. Dawn listed a home 1 street away from St. Clair Shores. So it didn't show up in their Collab Center, their site that gives them all the auto notifications. But Dawn happened, we were talking and we were getting ready to go to lunch, and she said, you know, I listed a house right, and it was perfect for them. She said, you know, that buyer that you were talking about, I think this would be a great house for them. But of course, it wasn't in the exact city. It was 1 street over. I was able to go in and do an agent recommended within their Collab Center account. It turns out the Dawn was right. They absolutely loved the home. We wrote it up. We ended up closing, and it was the perfect house for them. So even if you set up their criteria, it gives the agent a little bit of flexibility to add in something that they may think, they not exactly what they were looking for, but a lot of times buyers don't know exactly what they're looking for, right? So this allowed me to go in and still show them something in their Collab Center that maybe didn't hit all of the features they were looking for, or maybe didn't hit the exact criteria, but it turned out to be the house that we closed on. So there's also things in the Collab Center, like I seem to get kind of crazy buyers. I swear it's the crazy hair or something, but I had a buyer who called me. It was a referral of someone that I had closed, and I had a great relationship with the referral partner. But she said, you know, Colleen, if you send me 1 more yellow-sided house, I'm going to just get another agent. And first of all, I didn't know she didn't like yellow siding. No one had mentioned that. And second of all, there is no button in the MLS that says, "Oop, remove yellow-sided houses." So you can also do things like agent previews, which basically sends it to you, the agent, to say yes or no, and then it can go on to the buyer. So we'll show you all of those great tools in the Collab Center when we cover that. We're going to talk about public records with Realist. We are going to talk about showing time and showing time carts, which I absolutely love. We're going to even look at that a little bit today. We're going to talk about the new features that you're going to access in HomeSnap. We also have lead generation and social media in real estate. We're going to be teaching all of these classes coming up just beyond the conversion. So remember, important dates to know. April 1st, an important date you need to know. April 4th is that cutover period. Everything now goes into the new MLS. And then obviously parallel is going on right now. All right, I'm going to go out of our slides and start some real life stuff now. This is where the fun begins, because you're going to see Paragon in kind of some new ways, and you're going to see some new features that we've added. Of course, my Paragon is going to look slightly different than yours. And the reason is where I am, our MLS kind of controls the homepage, but obviously I'm not with UPAR, so it's going to look a little bit different. I won't have the UPAR messaging in the middle, but most everything else is going to look the same. We've added some great tools in here, things that I've asked for a very, very long time. And some of them are like ways to find multiple addresses much quicker. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my board message over here so it looks a little more like probably what you'll see. But what we want to do is we want to get you familiar with some of the new fields and features that you're going to be coming in contact with. Obviously, the basic ones, the basic Paragon functionality is going to be the same. What's going to change is the ease and some of the quick action links, we call them, or I like to call them the easy buttons. It's really so that I can find things in a much quicker way. Those easy buttons, again, will take you into different programs for that specific listing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kind of bounce over. And hopefully you're seeing that. I lost internet connection for just a second, so hopefully you're seeing this okay. Dawn, are you still seeing my screen okay?
Yep,
okay.
We see it.
So one of the things when you log into Paragon for the very first time, one of the things you may notice is when you log in, Dawn and I are both right-handed, so we kind of like our side panels, if you will, to be very easy and convenient. So your middle section here is obviously going to be controlled by UPAR, and I've taken mine out because I just want you to focus on these side panels here. But if I am looking at this quick search over here, this is kind of where I want to draw your attention, because of course, in Paragon, just like you saw before, if you're looking for one property fast, so let's say Dawn is looking for my listing on 1871 Cove. She can simply type that in at the top in our power search, if you will. It's very Google-esque, so the less information you put in, the better. But she can quickly pull that property up or see how many times that property is closed. She can pull up all those property records. So this power search up here, this is super great if you're just trying to find one property or one agent or one MLS number. Super great for finding that information. And that's really what it's for. When I pull up that property, you're going to notice now I'm using our report, but of course we recreated your report, so you'll see that too. But you'll notice all these colorful action icons. And basically, as I mentioned, the nice thing about these icons is they will take you into all different programs for that specific listing. So no matter what listing you're entering in, you're going to have great tools that you don't have to re-enter. So I'm going to use my good friend Tom. He always gets the fancy listings. I always get the fixer-uppers, if you will, and they're not quite as lovely to look at when it comes to photos. He gets the nice $3 million. I never get in that price range, so we'll use his for just a moment. But as you can see, if I wanted the BS&A record, for example, remember I told you that now that trash can looking symbol, which is actually a government pillar. If I wanted the BS&A record for that property, I can simply click on those easy buttons and now have that deep linking to pull up the BS&A record. And all I have to do is click that one button. Now, again, this is going to do the same thing for you guys. However, if that municipality does charge a fee, you'll see that fee screen come up. But this will now allow me to go in and see the tax information, the property information, details for the property, assessments. Down here, we can even see if the water bill's been paid. I'm not sure how that works up there. But the idea is it's taking me directly into that. Now, I always add this into my CMA, in my cloud CMA. So I actually print this as a PDF and pull it into cloud. So I can show when I ran this report and what was the current status, where I pulled my information from. So these quick action links are extremely helpful. Obviously, you can schedule a showing, the property website, as I mentioned. If I want to see that single property website, I'm going to click on that button. It's going to show me that single property website, and this is going to be a brand new tool coming for you. This is what that single property website looks like. My good friend Tom at the top here, he has a branded and unbranded tour, which means he has one tour. When he shares it out on his social media, he can say, hey, my name is Tom Lipinski. I work with ABC Realty, and here's my number. I would love to be able to help you, because he's sharing it out onto social media. Again, people can go ahead and select a showing time, which emails you when they'll be available. They can, of course, go through all the beautiful property photos, but I like the easygoing look. Very simple, it's what they're used to when they're searching on these other IDX sites, right? Simple and streamlined. Of course, they can ask questions about the property, but as I mentioned, the nice thing here is it's only showing Tom's other listings and Tom's other sold inventory. I'm not working so hard to give away that listing to someone who just bought the zip code. When I'm ready to share this information onto social media, you'll see right over here to the right, if I click that share button, let's say I want to share to Facebook, I can go ahead, not only can I share it to my page, but maybe I want to share it to my Facebook business page, maybe an office page that you manage. So you can share it even to a group. So the idea is I can go ahead and quickly share it. This is done automatically. Now, this is not turned on for you yet. So I apologize. This is one of those things that will happen as of April 4th. We'll start adding all these great tools in, but you'll have that single property website that you can quickly share. If I go over to the right, it will also allow me to tweet it. So I can put it on Twitter. I can add it to Pinterest. I can put it on LinkedIn, or I can just email it to someone. So very quick ways to share that single property website. And again, the nice thing here is whoever shares it, it's still giving Tom's information. So you're not giving away those leads. All right, so jumping back to Paragon, as I mentioned, there are great property reports in here from Cloud CMA that you'll be able to access. There is, you can create a property report here, or you can go over here and create a property flyer for your client as well. There's Realist integration. It's also where you will find the disclosures. So this is where you're hopefully adding in your seller's disclosures or your bylaws. As I mentioned, it makes it really easy, especially now that you're using HomeSnap Pro Premium, to be able to access that and be able to do that right at the time of the showing. All right, so now your homework. What do you need to know? Well, one of the things you need to know is over here where it says Market Monitor, and again, it may be on your right side when you log in. Your Market Monitor is your homework. We are asking you to go into your listings, and you can find that right in the Market Monitor under My Info. If you want to see all of your listings quickly and check your solds, we want you to check listings that you see and that you know. You're going to click on the listing number, and we're asking you at this time, before we go into that cutover period, we're asking you to open up that listing and just take a look and make sure that the information looks correct for you. So we want to make sure that the photos are carrying over. You want to check things like that the school district and the municipality are coming over. If for some reason something looks wrong to you, doesn't look like it should, we're asking you to just simply click this corrections button. That correct, you don't have to include the address. You don't even have to include your name. All we need to know, because we're going to know who sent it, we can see that behind the scenes. We're going to know the property, we can see that behind the scenes. What we need to know is what you found that doesn't look right. If you do find anything, then it's sent to your board staff and to Brian, and then they can go in and they can actually check the information, and then they can go ahead and figure out why that particular item didn't come over properly. So this is kind of the time you want to check your listings, check your information, and make sure that everything is coming across appropriately. All right.
We've got some feedback. We've got some feedback that says, nice, love it. Thank you, Tammy.
Good. Thanks for the great feedback. One of the other things, and this was something Dawn and I requested for years that Brian built for us. And one of the problems that I had was that buyers were finding information on Zillow and these other sites faster than I could find it. Because what I was doing is they would call and they'd say, well, Colleen, I'm looking for some information on 123 Lake, and I'm typing in that one, right? And I just really, they're giving me 5 or 6 addresses. It was taking way too long to find the information. And then I wanted to simply text it out after our call, but there was no good way to do that in bulk. So what we were asking for, and Dawn and I asked for it so much that I think it made Brian crazy, and that's why he built this field. But what he built is the full addresses field. Now, it doesn't sound like, anything special, but let me tell you it is. So if I start typing in, and I'm going to use 1871 Cove, and he's given me another address. So my buyer's rattling off these addresses, and he's like, I'm looking for 205 Lakeshore. And I'm also looking for 123 Main Street. And he's sitting in front of where he compiled a list that he found. I can simply keep typing addresses and hit enter after them. So I'm right over here in my quick search, and I am simply just entering the addresses. Now, the interesting thing about full addresses and why this was a little harder for Brian to make is it could be Cove Avenue, it could be Cove Drive, it could be Cove Lane, anything that, basically think of it like this. There's a built-in asterisk or wild card after Cove. It's pulling in everything that would be 1871 Cove, whether it's Cove Lane, Cove Circle, Cove Boulevard, it's pulling it in for you. Where it became a little more tricky is the directionals. Sometimes you're not sure, is it on North Cove or is it on South Cove Street? You can actually use that same concept by placing an asterisk in front of the word cove. It will find all of those for you. So 1871 North or South Cove, it will actually pull in for you. So the idea is if they're sitting in front of a home or they're giving you multiple addresses, you can go right over here to your quick search, use your full addresses field. Now, as you can see right here, it's pulling up a lot. It's pulling up all the closed records for these properties too. So what I would do is I would go to status and I'd say, okay, I want to see everything that is active or pending if they're sitting in front of it. I know it's going to be hopefully one of those two. And then I'm going to hit search. And now, of course, it's going to bring up those 3 properties for me. And now I could even go ahead and text those properties over. So let's say that I'm going to send these 3 properties via text to the buyer I'm on the phone with. I'm simply going to go ahead and go up to the share button. You have the text option. And of course, if you already have your contacts, which we've imported for you, you can go ahead and text it to a contact you already have, or simply add in a new mobile number and new client name to text those properties over. So very, very simple to find those properties. Again, just use that full addresses field. I love it because it allows me to add, 10, you can add up to 30, by the way. So if they've got, 20 or 30 addresses that they've sent to you, you can even, here's a little trick that I learned. If you got it via email, you can, what I generally do is I'll click forward on the email so that I can kind of edit it. I will make sure I have a comma in between each address. I will copy them and paste them right into that field, and I can pull all of them up at one time. It makes it so much easier than manually entering each address individually. So that's a huge field. That should be a really good improvement for you. All right, so let's talk about one of the things that came up in our call today earlier, and that's the tax information. I know that was a really big deal in our last class too. And once we showed it, it kind of made more sense, I think. So I'm just going to grab my listing so I don't mess up anybody else's here. And I'm going to go into maintain. And I'm going to show you some of those fields and some of the tax autofill that you're going to see. So we're going to take a look at some of those questions and kind of address them. Because I think sometimes when you see it, at least for me, I'm more of a visual person. Sometimes if I see it, I'm like, okay, that totally makes sense, but it's kind of hard to conceptualize what it's going to look like. So if I go into my listing, one of the things people were asking about as far as taxes, if I open up that tax area, you can see it is asking for a field for taxable value, SEV, anything with an R. Red R is of course required. So you can put in an SEV year. You can do summer tax. As you can see, I've got summer tax year, winter tax year. If there's a village tax, now down by us, we have some areas that there's an actual separate tax, a village tax. So anything with an R is required. It does ask if the property is homesteaded. Are there assessments? Are there additional documents that are needed? So you should find that you had all of the tax information you had before, plus some. Again, the tax autofill button allows you to go in now to 83 counties. We have every single county in the state of Michigan so that you can pull in some of that tax information directly into the listing. So if I'm creating a new listing, I can actually use the tax autofill. I'm gonna close out of here and create a new one. It'll make a little more sense here. Just so you can kind of see that process. So if I'm going in, I'm going to go to, now by the way, the listing section, just to reiterate, I know I keep beating a dead horse, but I promise there's a reason. We get a lot of calls that are like trying to put a listing in now and it's not working. So remember that this is not turned on yet, but when you go in to add a new listing after April 4th, you'll be able to use that tax autofill option, which will allow you to start a new listing. It'll bring up the tax autofill button. When we get to that tax autofill section, you're going to see it's now loading the counties. So I'm just going to use mine because it's what I'm most familiar with. I'm going to click on Macomb County. And I'm going to be able to do something like simply just put in, and I recommend less, by the way, less is best on this. If I put in the street number and just the route street name, by the way, leave off the drives, the boulevards, the ways, the places, I can immediately see it's pulling up that property record, like you see right there. Going to check it off. Yep, that's the address. And I'm going to click the autofill button. And I think this was one of the questions, so correct me if I'm wrong, Dawn. But once we start filling in that autofill, let's say you're looking at this and you're like, you know what, I want to tell them what the new taxes are going to be. You can just deselect that particular item. So maybe I don't want to show the summer tax, or maybe I want to manually enter that in. You can simply just deselect that item and everything else will still autoflow for you. Now I can hit save and start filling in the additional information. And it's going to bring in, so instead of me having to type in things like the address, the lengthy legal description, the county, as you can see, it's already starting to autoflow, but I can also override that. I can choose not to bring in a particular field. All right, did that help? And I don't know exactly who asked the questions because I'm not looking at the questions, Dawn is. So let us know if that properly answered the question or if we need to cover that a little bit further.
I think it did, but I'll also throw out another suggestion. If you are estimating those taxes going forward for the new buyer, you could, so today, this is 2022, but because those fields are more open, you could put 2023 EST under the tax year, and then include the estimated amounts for those other taxes. So you do have control of those fields, and some of that might make it easier for you guys if you put in the, the year, or you could put, estimated just EST under the year, because it will take text as well as a number, and then put in the amount of the projected taxes.
Great suggestion. Great suggestion. All right. So another thing I want to, you're going to have a lot more tools coming up. And again, not everything is turned on, but after April 4th, you'll get all the dates of when each product is going to be turned on. There will be classes on every single thing, so don't worry. However, I want to point out that resources is where we put all, with the exception of taxes, this is where you're going to find, think of this as like your toolbox. I call it resources, the agent toolbox. This is where you're going to find information on, online forms, how to get there. Your cloud CMA account will be brought over for you, showing time. All of the tools will be located in one spot to just make it so much easier for you to get to. If you're looking for cloud, remember, oh, that'd be in my toolbox. Think of resources as your new toolbox, because you're going to have a lot more tools now. A couple other things I want to talk about, and there's a whole class on this, so I know I'm throwing a lot of information out, but a couple other things I want to point out, not save my changes here, is that when you are searching, you're going to have a lot more fields to search on now. So if I go to search by class, I'm just going to go to my single family or residential, you're going to have a lot more field choices. But I talk to a lot of people who don't know, they're scrolling all the way to the bottom of their screen to find acreage, or they're scrolling, here and here and here, and every time they're going to search. Remember, almost every field in Paragon is customizable. You can choose what you want to search, and you can search where that field is. So if there is, something that you're constantly scrolling down to find, and I apologize, it's a little delayed because we're doing live streaming, but there's something you're always scrolling down to find, like original MLS number. Remember, you can move those things up. Now, when I say original MLS number, this is going to be an important field for you while we go through this transition period, because if you're quickly trying to find something and you only have the the UPAR MLS number from your old system, you can still use that. There's a field for that. Remember that now new things going in will automatically be given a little bit more to that number because we want to identify what county it's in. And it's going to be done through the data sharing. So, but if you still want to find it by, you know, the UPAR MLS number that you knew or you had in front of you, you can still use that field to pull those items up. Most people search by address nowadays, so that will probably be more helpful for you. However, there is a field if you only have the UPAR MLS number. It's called the original MLS field. If you don't see it in your search, remember you can go to Customize, click on the word Fields, and you can not only, you can drag and drop these fields into the order that you want, but you can also find additional fields. So if you're not seeing, I'm just going to use that original MLS number because I think that will be a helpful field for you to add. If you're not seeing original MLS number, you can go to Customize. I just go right to the Find box, type in original MLS number, check it off, hit Add, and again, you could even move that up or down in your list by simply dragging and dropping it, and then just hit Apply. So really easy to add those additional things in. As far as features, we are going to have a few more features that you did not have before. If you are doing a search and you are trying to search, let's say your client wants to buy a home, but he really wants to buy it land contract only. We have financial terms, or maybe you have a client who says, you know what, Colleen, my client is looking for houses, but he only wants to see things with an in-ground pool. We basically have 3 feature categories: must have, must not have, or must have one or more. So for instance, if you know your client only wants to see a house that has an in-ground pool, well then you can go ahead and set their search up, type in-ground pool, and they're only going to, especially if you set up auto notification, like through the Collab Center, they're only going to see that property if it has an in-ground pool. Maybe you have a client who does not want something. I just had a client who we went to close on her house, and here in Macomb County, we have a well and septic ordinance, and we found out it was going to cost $17,000 for a new raised engineered septic field, which they did not plan on. So she said, when we were looking for her new house, I do not want to see one thing that is on a septic field. I don't want to have to worry about it, maintain it. So in that case, she doesn't want to see anything that's on a septic, so must not have septic. So there's great ways, or must have one or more. Maybe you have a client who has a home manufacturing business and he needs either a pole barn or a large shed, so you could do one or more. But of course, now that you have so many more, if you want to see what features you have, you can click on that magnifying glass and it will show you all of the different types. If, let's say you have a client, let's say Tammy has a client and they want a finished basement only, then she can do must have finished basement. Again, if you have a client who's only been pre-approved a certain type of financing, let's see, financial terms, right here, financial terms, if they have been approved FHA 203K, maybe that's how they wanted to purchase it, or maybe land contract. You can also search that way, must have. There's also water features, which I think would be kind of important for where you are. So if I go to water features, maybe you have a client who has a boat. He doesn't care if he's got canal frontage or island frontage or lake frontage, or he can even be on the river. He doesn't care. As long as it has one of those items, it would now be delivered to his Collab Center. So great ways to set up those searches so that they're even more efficient. 2 more things I want to show you, and then I'll get to where you can find all the help resources. When searching by map, remember, if you're trying to find comps, an easy way is to go into the map field. Remember, you're covering a much bigger area now. If I am trying to find something, let's say now in my area, I'm going to use 1 mile. I'm sure where you are, it's probably a little bit more, might have to go a little bit further out. But if I want to, let me take this off, just use this for a previous class. I want to make it as easy as possible. So if I am looking here and I typed in my subject property, the property I'm going to list this evening, I can say, okay, I want to see comps that are within 1 mile, and I can click search radius, and it's going to build that 1 mile circle for me, so I can see comps that would fall. If I forgot to add certain criteria in, like maybe I only want to see closed properties, maybe from the last 6 months, and maybe I'm only looking at a certain price point, I can go ahead and add that in. Maybe I'm looking for something with 3 bedrooms. Maybe I'm looking for comps that would match my criteria. And remember, you can bounce around. There's criteria. I can now bounce back to the map, and I can say, okay, that's my criteria. Here's my map, and I want to find those comps within 1 mile with the criteria I've just entered. So I can quickly now see the comps for closed within 1 mile with the criteria that I entered. Remember, you're covering more information or covering a greater area. So you can also grab that little Google man, and you can actually set him on the map. And instead of driving 2 hours away, you can literally walk down the street to see that particular listing. And it will even label that subject property for me. So as I walk down the street here, I can see my subject property and the house to the left. Here's my subject property right here. And I can see the house to the left and the house to the right, and I can literally view the neighborhood. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Don, what did you say?
No, I just wanted to catch you. While you're in the live demo, I don't want you to exit out without demonstrating, if you can, to show them how to physically log in to the data for their new version of Paragon. Alan said he's not sure if he's doing something wrong, but he's having trouble. So if you could show that so that they can see exactly what to do.
Sure. Again, just to kind of to reiterate, you've got Google Maps. Don't be afraid to use that little Google man over to the right. Go ahead and drop him in front of that subject property. And again, you can view the entire neighborhood. So really, really easy to do, nothing hard there. So lastly, I want to just cover, and there's a whole class on this, so don't feel like you have to remember everything right this moment. But right here under contacts, your homework is to go in and make sure all of your contacts are there. So you're going to go to contacts, view and manage contacts, and this is where you should be seeing your contacts have been migrated over. It's also a really good time for cleanup, by the way. One of the cool things that you also have through Paragon is if you are using the Collab Center, which, as I mentioned, is that really easy way where you can set up a prospect with their criteria, and it automatically creates this really nice site that allows you to see when they last logged in, when they got their last notifications, when you added them to the system. So basically, I can go in, I can see what they liked, what they didn't like, and even what they favorited. There's a whole class on the Collaboration Center. We're going to kind of do a soup to nuts and A to Z on this. If you're not using the Collab Center, I strongly suggest taking the class, because once you see how easy it is, I think that you will really like it. And some of the cool things that you're going to have now through the Collab Center are, if your client goes in and they view all the property details. So if I click on details here, I'm going to be able to go in, do that street view, see the interior photos. I can see things like the seller's disclosure. I can request a time and send it to the agent. I can ask questions or make a comment to the agent. So you can set your clients up with this. So it's allowing you to answer their questions without having to pick up the phone. It also allows you, instead of picking up the phone and saying, hey, I see you really like this property. When would you like to go see it? They can even give you the time that, maybe the couple's available to see it. So they can go ahead and literally click on favorite, which now favorites it. So you, the agent, just got an email notification that they liked that particular house. Why I like the Collab Center so much, and I'm just going to grab a couple favorites here real quick. I'm going to say I'm favoriting this house, I'm favoriting this house. All right, so I've said, you know what, go in, favorite a couple houses, and we'll set up those showings. The nice thing here is when your client favorites houses, you, the agent, can click on the number right underneath favorites. So I'm going to say they went in, they favorited 3 or 4 houses. I can literally click on that number and send them into my showing time cart. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with the showing time carts, but it really makes it so simple. Now that you are covering more area, you could say, okay, we got one coming soon, so I'm not going to show that one because there's no showings on it yet, but I'm going to say that I want to drop these 4 into my showing time cart. So I'm going to click on showing time. And I think you're really going to like this if you haven't used the showing time carts before. Basically, I'm building a cart of when I want to show the property. So I'm going to say I'm going to show them tomorrow. I can even pick or assign a buyer so I can see how many homes I'm showing to that buyer, and it keeps track of what they've looked at. But here's where it gets really, really nice. It's going to show me basically a little map of when I dropped them in, but that would not make logical sense as far as driving order, right? So I'm going to click Smart Route. I'm going to recalculate the route so it makes logical driving sense. It also shows me if I need a confirmed appointment or if it's a go and show, which means it's vacant. So I can literally plan on maybe starting my tour there because I know I'm immediately going to get the lockbox. And over here, I can even see how long it's going to take me drive time wise. So I can see that from property 1 to property 2, it's going to take me an estimated 12 minutes because it's less than 5 miles. But in your region, you may have to drive a little bit more. So this is going to help you schedule out those appointments. Once you click pick a time, you can pick a time for all of the listings. So I can say, okay, I want to show this one between 8:15 and 8:30. I know it's only going to take me 12 minutes, so I'm going to do 8:30 for my next one to 8:45, and that will be enough time. So the idea here is that you can do everything from one screen, and I can even send my buyer turn-by-turn directions so they know where we're going to start and where we're going to stop. So showing time carts are really cool. This will all be turned on for you on April 4th. So you'll be able to start using showing time to schedule these. And again, if you haven't used the showing time carts, we're going to have a whole class on this. You'll be able to see it from start to finish, and we'll walk you through setting up your carts right from the Collab Center.
Well, I think we definitely have some fans of the showing time cart, and especially like I had mentioned in my comments to Tammy, is at $4.29 a gallon, being the most efficient is more important than ever.
Yes, that is so true. Man, I can't believe how expensive it's getting. Okay, so lastly, I know I've talked your ear off and we did run a couple minutes over, so I apologize, but I do want to leave you with all the great help resources and then that login. We're going to talk about that login again because I know I kind of fumbled it as I was reading it. But up here at the top, this is your first resource. Dawn, Lisa, Debbie, many on our staff have helped write cheat sheets. Now, you know, after today, you're probably going to go, oh my gosh, that lady with the big hair, she talks so fast. How am I going to remember all this? Well, of course you're not. So that's why we recorded this class. It's why we put those handouts in the GoToWebinar panel. And it's also why we have this MLS documents up at the top. So where you see my mouse right at the top of Paragon, when you go into MLS documents, and by the way, you're not going to see all this. You're only going to see the part that says the Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors folder. We are creating cheat sheets for you on every single product, but that UPAR conversion with the dates that I mentioned that is in the GoToWebinar panel, it is also here. So if you click on it, it will have all the important dates and all the information we've just gone over. So if you're kind of a reader, you just want to read it for yourself, that's here. But I do want to point out one difference that you're going to see with the data sheets. And I had 15 calls on this last week, so I just want to point this out. Someone logged in and they said, you know what, I clicked on the UPAR data sheet like you told me, Colleen, but it's one page. You're right. There are 2 data sheets for UPAR. So let me explain. You had a lot of additional fields that we didn't have, like ski resort, as I mentioned, or water view, or trail side. So there is an additional addendum just for UPAR, just for you. And that is for those additional fields. But the data sheets themselves, there's a commercial, vacant land, multifamily, but the data sheet itself is also there. And again, I've attached these into the GoToWebinar handouts. But the data sheet is a nice broad view of everything that you're going to need to input your listing. So the data, both data sheets are there, but there are 2 for UPAR. The one is just the new additional fields, or new to our Paragon, I should say, but additional fields that you may need. The other data sheet is also there, and as you can see, everything in red is required. But I really like this because I think features are laid out really nicely. And I know it's taking a second to load here, but features are laid out nice and easy to read so that I literally can just bam, 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 and go down and check off everything that I want. So both of those data sheets are there for you, and it just makes it that much easier. So both are there. Under the MLS documents, you'll find the UPAR data sheet and then the actual data sheet. So you're going to need both of those. All right, and then your other resource, let me see if I can pull this up pretty quickly, is going to be our YouTube channel. One of the things that Dawn and I, because we take a lot of classes, we said, you know, man, we throw all this information at them. How are they going to remember all of this? And the answer is you're not. So don't worry. That's why we're recording all of these. But if you go to our YouTube channel, which is, by the way, My RealTors Media, you're going to see under the playlist, you have your own playlist called the Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors. I started this for you. I actually added in some of the classes already. And so when you go in, you will find this class will be uploaded tonight. But you'll see many of the classes, and it will, the UPAR conversion class that we did on Friday is there. So if you missed it and you want to watch it right now, the one from Friday is there, and you can watch that one. Or again, the one from today will actually be uploaded this evening. So as we complete these classes, they will all be recorded, and you can watch every single one of them, and 24 hours a day. Just go to YouTube, type in My RealTors Media, and then look for the Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors playlist. And I think Brian's actually creating that right in your MLS center section. So you'll be able to click it right from the middle of the MLS too.
Colleen,
all right.
Yes. Alan's asking when, because I think I know the answer is yes, but when will fillable PDFs be available for their data sheets?
The fillable PDFs have been added to zip form. Those will be available, I think, after April 4th. So we've already sent them. Zip form already has them. They're literally just copying them. We just had to add the UPAR one. So those fillable data sheets will be available in zip form, which is my understanding is what you guys are using. And those will be, but not until April 4th.
Where are they going to have the create button as well from Zip?
Yes, we are providing the zip form integrate. Let me see the create.
You know, the push to the thing from the data sheet. Is that might take some programming time. I just didn't know if it would be available right away.
That will not. And I'm not even sure. I know we're providing the integration, the MLS connector piece. Let me go back to Brian. That'd be a really good Brian question. The pieces that we're including right now are going to be the MLS connector, so you can pull the data into contracts, the MLS update. So yes, you will be able to do the push, but that's gonna, I will tell you, we've worked with ZipForm. Yeah, we've worked with ZipForm, you know, quite extensively, and they're running a little bit behind. So I don't expect that that's going to be available right away. I would think that's going to take a little more time. But you know what? I can actually get a firm answer what our expected date is, and if you jot down that person's name, Dawn, I can get back to them and let them know when it's expected.
I will do that.
Yeah, they had the end of the year contracts that got really pushed back so Zipform was purchased by Lone Wolf, which is also the maker of Transaction Desk and Authentisign. They also purchased Cloud CMA and a bunch of other products, Property Base, and at the end of the year last year, which really caused kind of a bottleneck in the forms. And so end of the year revisions, and then NAR had a lot of new mandates that had to be added to people's forms. So things got a little bit behind. I know we had a couple of our associations that were a few days longer than they anticipated getting their forms done. So, but let me see if I can get a firm answer on that for you. All right, so going back, because I know I kind of botched this when we were going through it, going back to our login, and I think you said Alan had a question. So Alan, you're going to be going to the URL is MI, so you're going to type this in your browser. It's going to be MI/Paragon, RELS.com. So that's what you're going to type in your browser. If you want to test it out, want to make sure that you get in there okay. So you're going to type in again, MIMLS.Paragon, RELS.com. Your login, and I apologize, I kind of fumbled this on the way in, is just your old UPAR login with UP in front of it. So it's your old Paragon login, but you're just adding a capital UP in front of it. Then your password would be the same as what you were typing in as a password before. If you forgot your password, you can click Forgot Password, and it can be reset. But I do want to make sure that you're able to get in. So again, you're going to go to your browser, just like you're going to search the internet. You're going to type in MIMLS.Paragon, RELS.com, and you're going to type in capital UP and then your old Paragon login and password. All right, so a lot of great information for you, Dawn. Is there any other questions before we call it a class?
Nope, just Alan said thank you, and some other very nice comments about the things that they like that are nice, and they love it, and I think they're going to really enjoy Paragon with all of our extras. Makes a difference.
Well, thank you so much, Dawn, for all of your help today. Again, I apologize that usually Brian does all the hard technical questions, but unfortunately he couldn't be here today. So thanks for listening to me go on. And Dawn, thanks so much for being the wingman and working so hard behind the scenes.
My pleasure. Thanks again, you guys, for letting us take up your time.
Thanks. Have a great day, everybody. Happy selling.